everyone. Welcome once again to Worldview on Dialogus. I am your host, Vishal Dahiya, and this week we're going to talk about India's neighborhood. Now, after Sri Lanka in 2022, Bangladesh in 2024, this time around, same kind of events are taking place in Nepal in 2025. What is exactly happening in India's neighborhood? By events, I mean violent protests leading to ouster of the present governments. Same happened in Sri Lanka, then in Bangladesh, and now in Nepal as well. The protests turn, of course, violent. In Nepal, the protests were led by the youth of the country, supposedly on the issue of ban of social media apps in the country. But it also, sparked anger on the issue of corruption, mismanagement of government resources, and so on and so forth. This finally led to deposition, or rather ouster, of KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister of Nepal, who resigned. Several of his cabinet colleagues were manhandled by the violent mob as well. The key buildings in the capital city, Kathmandu, that is the Prime Minister's residence, even the President's house, the Parliament House, and several key party offices as well, including the Nepali Congress and the Communist Party office. All of them were set ablaze by the protesters. Almost 50 people were killed and several injured as well. Right now, it looks like the situation is largely under the control of security forces, but there is a huge political void. There are still discussions and conversations going on. There will be a caretaker government, and there will be talks of normalcy, returning to normalcy, or going back to democracy through election process as well. But the question which we are trying to answer today is, and trying to understand as well, is why did it happen? That is one. And of course, what is the implication of these incidents in this region, in India's neighborhood? And for more on this, we're joined by two distinguished panelists. Let me introduce them to you. We're joined by Mr. Hasnain. He's a well-known expert, a military expert as well. He has served in Kashmir, also looked at these violent protests from a close angle. Also serves as a member of NDMA and Vice Chancellor of the Kashmir University as well. Welcome to you, General Hasnain, to our show. We're also joined by veteran journalist KV Prasad, who's kept a very close watch on the developments in India's neighborhood and, of course, other foreign affairs as well, and also writes regularly on all these issues. Welcome to you as well, Mr. Prasad, to Worldview.
Thank you, Vishal. Thank you very much.
We'll begin by, taking stock of the situation and trying to understand as to why did it happen. So I'll start with you first, General Hasnain. What are your views? Why do you think this immediately erupted in Nepal, or was it a ticking time bomb?
Thank you, Vishal sir. Thank you for inviting me for your wonderful program. There is no single reason, no single answer for your question. It's a multiple set of things which have been happening in this place, in this entire subcontinent. And this is a trend which has been going on for fairly long, if you see the Arab Spring. This is exactly what happened there. Tahrir Square and places like that. Young people suddenly taking to violence, wanting to change the style of governance, the system of governance, and things of that nature. No, we never knew that this kind of a thing is going to afflict our subcontinent. But it started with Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka was something, okay, an economy which had gone bad. The entire thing was in disarray, absolutely, after COVID particularly. So it could have been expected there, and violence was somehow a common thing which happened there. Bangladesh, it happened again. Bangladesh is a very volatile nation, and there's a volatile polity there. So again, there was an expectation that someday, because of the democratic rules having not been followed completely over a period of time, elections having been done in questionable ways, this kind of a thing could have happened. But Nepal, I do agree, has got a history of civil war itself. I mean, a Maoist insurgency and a virtual civil war. And history of political instability. I don't know how many governments in the last 5-8 years have come and gone out here. So obviously, there is a sense of dismay among the emerging population, the younger population. And somehow this kind of a thing has translated into enough is enough kind of a thing. The most important aspect of all these revolutions or these movements on the ground is they are leaderless. They are without leaders. They are seeking leaders. They are parachuting leaders. You found Muhammad Yunus getting parachuted into Bangladesh. Here also you are finding within society itself in Nepal a parachuting of leaders being attempted at the moment. How and where this will go, we don't know. The last point from my side, intense violence. It happened in Bangladesh too, intense violence to an extent in Sri Lanka too. But this place, it has taken us by surprise completely. There seems to have been no intelligence on this whatsoever within Nepal or within India or any other place like that. And the good thing, I would say, one of the heartening things is the security forces, the army has not taken to push back. It is otherwise the army could have killed 100 people in firings, police could have done it, but I've seen that they have abdicated this from this and moved back to their barracks virtually, controlling here and there where it was possible. It has led to a tremendous amount of violence lost, and 50 lives lost in a matter of 48, 72 hours in a movement like this is a fairly large number.
Okay. Several points there made by you, General Hasnain. We'll take them one by one, but let me first bring in Mr. Prasad on the issue of why again, because and the reasons. Mr. Prasad, as General Hasnain is saying, and all of us know the Nepalese political history as well, the abolition of political parties, then violence, the civil war, then the abolition of monarchy, and then the era of coalition governments, prime ministers after prime ministers, and coalition governments after coalition governments. There has been a lot of political instability in Nepal in the past 20, 30, 40 years. But uh, do you believe that the reason or the main reason behind these violent incidents or these protests in Nepal in this week is largely attributed to the domestic situation there, just the domestic issues?
Well, I think, Vishal, the fact remains is that the trigger point may have been what we all read is the social media point. But that was probably it came to the tipping point. Before that, the issue that always was looking at, which probably many people must have missed the warning signals that may have emanated, was this economic inequality. And this is a classic Aristotle way where he says inequality is what breeds this kind of a situation. And this inequality, and remember 50% of Nepal is youth. When I say youth, it is probably 25 years and younger. So they have a lot of energy, but they have facing a bleak future. They also see, if you see, we all know now the Nepo Kids campaign that they ran, because it was showing up in sharp contrast that there was elite entrenched into the system who were benefiting out of it, and whereas the large majority did not have the kind of economic benefits or the spin-off. And despite everything, and of course, Nepal too must have been affected post-COVID, but it's a landlocked country. It doesn't have very many opportunities. And then the kind of geopolitical changes that have been taking place in the neighborhood, of course, and we all know that the kind of India's biggest neighbor, China, trying to expand its influence in all these areas. So there are shades right now, but we don't know which of these shades must have worked. All kind of theories are already at play, whether it is a Sino-US challenge, stuff like that, but that will take time. But primarily, I believe the economic inequality and the youth got frustrated over a period of time. And that boiling point came to, it erupted into what we saw.
Okay. General Hasnain, do you believe, because you spoke about Arab Spring, you spoke about Bangladesh as well, Sri Lanka also. Now in the Arab Spring, we also heard about the foreign interference, and there was a lot of talk about how foreign powers might have interfered. Same was the case with Bangladesh as well. There were fingers pointed at several foreign intelligence agencies also. In the case of Nepal, do you believe that yes, the ongoing geopolitical equations or realignment of geopolitical equations might also have some hand behind the scenes in the events which might have unfolded?
Excellent question and inevitable question, no doubt about it. At the outset, let me say it will be conjecture if I say jump to it and say yes. immediately. There is really no evidence at the moment, and it will take a little time to unravel as we go along. But as you raise the issue of the Arab Spring, let me go back to that and say Arab Spring was about the United States' intent to try and impose liberal democracy and the monarchies of the Arab world. It failed fairly miserably because the society was not prepared for it. Now, here, the society itself was seething. It was there all over. In Sri Lanka, also, the similar thing was there, complete utter failure of the economy. Bangladesh, it was primarily a one party kind of a show, one autocratic kind of a rule which was there, against which a massive pushback was there. Here again, this country, Nepal, has been in a whole period of turbulence, as just brought out by KV Saab. So we can expect that if there was a tinderbox and anyone who wishes to come in here and impose some kind of a thing here can always do it. The idea should be why. What would that organization, what would that agency or that nation actually gain? Now, you obviously look at the fact that all these nations are India's neighbors, and the nature of the subcontinent is essentially Indo-centric. So anything which happens in these nations in form of social, political turbulence travels immediately across the borders into India. It's not happened in the case of Nepal immediately. It's not happened in the case of Bangladesh. Not happened in the case of Sri Lanka. But that is the invisible part. There is always some kind of an aspect of influence which keeps on sort of germinating in these kind of areas. That's the long-term perspective which a nation which has got something against India will always want to kind of exploit. My suspicion always, and the pointing of fingers always, is the fact there are nations around the world who would not like to see India expand in the way it is doing at the moment, not like to see it gain the kind of strategic confidence it is doing under the current government, a $4 trillion economy aiming to be a $10 trillion economy, looking at 2047, the so-called Viksit Bharat, and all these kind of things. This sends out a lot of messages around the world, and people get a little dismayed. Is this country moving too fast? I would only stop at that level at the moment and not point any fingers anywhere.
Okay. General Hasnain, how do you see the leadership issue?
See, Vishal Saab, I was referring earlier to a book by an American political scientist called Gene Sharp. Came out in 1993 sometime. It's a book called From Dictatorship to Democracy, right? And it's got a wonderful chapter in it called 198 Ways of Non-Violent Revolution. I still remember in 2008, my reports told me that SAS Gilani in Kashmir was also leading this, right? And that was the time, if you remember, the stone throwing agitation had just about started. So I got interested and read this book, and I realized there are lots of principles which are in that book, which are followed in most of these leaderless revolutions. One of them is to keep it leaderless, because that way no one gets targeted. It's not, the state itself cannot immediately go into starting to arrest people, detain people, and things like that. Secondly, it also recommends very strongly to go in against institutions and symbols of power, of statehood, like the Supreme Court, like the Parliament, like the presidential house and things like that. So obviously someone has done his homework and reading all this, doing all this while targeting this the system in Nepal at this time. Mm-hmm. How it will pan out ahead, the one positive thing, as I'm still noticing, is that the army has stood out. And still it is almost similar to what happened in Bangladesh, where the army also stood out. It did not participate in anything and did not say we will immediately jump into power. Unlike Pakistan, if tomorrow this kind of a thing happens in Pakistan, I suppose everyone will jump immediately to power. Everyone in the army will want to come to power. Here they have kept away from it, which is a positive, which means essentially they are looking for not power. They are looking for some form of effective governance. And that stands out very positively for the moment.
Okay. So there is some positive hue to this entire situation as well, some silver lining in the clouds, as we say. But General Hasnain, let's now shift focus towards the security aspect as well and the regional aspect also. When we look at India's neighborhood, as far as democratic principles are concerned, Pakistan is a foregone conclusion. Democracy doesn't seem to even survive there for a very long period. No government has completed their tenure, rather no prime minister. And you're talking about Pakistani army. Of course, they in Pakistan, it looks like the army wouldn't wait for the civil unrest to begin. If they want, they can go ahead and capture the power themselves. Bangladesh is concerned, very volatile situation, politically unstable. Then Sri Lanka also trying to get back on its feet, but still considered volatile. Now Nepal as well. So how do we handle the situation? We are now surrounded by all our neighboring nations, which are going through lots of pangs in terms of political instability, domestic instability, violent clashes, violent protests, no credible leadership as well. How do we handle this?
See, Vishal Saab, one thing which India has often been accused of is this aspect of being a big brother, attempting to be a big brother in the neighborhood. And I think India has attempted to try and keep itself out of all this for quite some time now. That on the first day when I started seeing the television scenes of what's happening in Kathmandu, that's the first thing which came to my mind. I hope we in India are very careful about this whole thing to make sure that our utterances, our media, no one should go overboard all of a sudden to start giving advice on things, except the only advice is stabilize, let peace prevail, sit down together, discuss, let's see how we can progress beyond. That's the kind of advice you need and nothing more than that. India need not in this situation try and act as a big brother to try and moralize and tell people that this is how you should do it. See how India does it. We do it correctly. We've got a democracy which is working. We are progressing. No one likes that kind of a thing. And obviously, there are a lot of powers who would want to see South Asia burning in this manner because the perception prevails that if India's neighbors are unstable, then that instability travels into India too. So this is something we have to be very careful about. This is something we have to work upon very, very slowly, politically, people to people, in that kind of particular manner, not in any sort of hard-handed or a ham-handed, overt kind of a way that we need to react to this.
Okay, so you're saying that no need for us to jump into the fire, burning fire, and start preaching, giving sermons, or give unsolicited advice and unsolicited help as well.
Absolutely, you've seen it in Bangladesh also. In the beginning, we tried to do it slowly, but then you found a pushback coming. I think the government of India has had a very sensible approach to Bangladesh, where we have not tried to go, suddenly berserk and trying to offer advice and things like that. We've allowed the situation to calm down in the last 1 year, and slowly, I think now channels of communication are opening up.
Okay, but Mr. Prasad, Nepal is strategically important to us, and as the saying goes, Nepal और भारत के बीच तो रोटी बेटी का रिश्ता है. So that ways, we share a lot of common ground. In fact, there is an open border as well. The Nepalese citizens do not need a visa to enter India. Same is the case for Indians in Nepal as well. So a porous border across several of our states also. How do you think we should handle the situation specifically as far as Nepal is concerned, and largely when we look at our neighborhood? As General Hasnain is saying, we need to keep our calm. But is keeping our calm the only way out?
Well, I think that it's a very clear strategy what General Sir was also referring to. The question is, we should not go overboard to be seen as if, because Roti-Beti का रिश्ता तो ठीक है, but उस Roti-Beti रिश्ते में आप एक दूसरे की आदर रखते हैं. You keep that distance and maintain that respect कि भाई ठीक है, आप बेटी के घर जाके ससुराल वालों को ज्यादा बताते नहीं कि आपको ऐसा करना चाहिए. To use extend that metaphor. At the same time, we have an issue. You said it's a porous border, so and already we have read reports, and the government of India and the border police on the borders have enhanced the security and enhanced checks. That's making sure that antisocial elements don't take advantage of a situation. That being said, but beyond that, we probably will have to explore how you can assess the younger, have we engaged with the younger generation? Because they are right now the ones, the Gen Z seems to be in. But if they don't want you there, the state of India, as General Sahab said, it is the people to people equation that always that changes. Right now, it is you have to allow them settle their house, give them that confidence that we are around. If you need help, we are around. But we don't need to poke our nose into their business. It's their country. Let them see how they need to sort it out. Once you gradually, then you move your quiet diplomacy at work. But again, right now there are no structure there for you to engage. I mean, where do our Indian diplomats work with? With whom are there's no government per se. So it becomes a issue. So gradually, trade like in Sri Lanka, we held them economically. That is what Sri Lanka needed at that point of time. It soothed the nerves of people and also confirmed to the people, okay, India is around. It's going to help you with a package. It doesn't want to interfere with the way you want to live in your country. So that gave you an assurance. So similarly, we'll have to look for a ground in which Indian role is seen as benign, not as the big brother General Sahab was referring.
Okay, but Mr. Prasad, strategically, it also sort of increases our homework in terms
Absolutely.
of dealing with volatile situation all around, and no credible leadership. We will have to perhaps diplomatically we might have to start from ground zero.
Absolutely, we've done it in Afghanistan, not very far away. We've done it in Bangladesh. We're doing it again, gradually opening up. Sri Lanka is now almost, it's on even keel. So these things take time. Unfortunately, I would use a metaphor that was told to me by the former congressman I was working in the U.S. Congress. He said once in a town hall meeting, somebody said, the biggest problem in America, he was referring to local politics, is the microwave. So the congressman said, how is microwave related to politics? He said, today's people want everything in instant. Put everything in microwave, punch a few buttons, and bingo comes the result. He said, life doesn't work. Situations don't resolve that easily. There are complexities that need to handle, carefully evaluate, and move forward. So the analogy of microwave is nothing comes overnight. You have to gradually build your bricks. Something which 1 year ago in Afghanistan, nobody imagined, or little ever. I mean, today we are talking, we almost had a Taliban leader coming to India, which was probably unimaginable if you refer to what happened in the turn of century. So all these things change. There is nothing static in world. There is dynamism. You need to understand the undercurrents and you need to deal with it. You cannot say it is my way, only this way I'll deal with it. So it's a complex world. And as the world is evolving, so has to other aspects work for it there, Vishal.
Indeed, as is said in the diplomacy that there are no permanent friends or no permanent enemies as well. Perceptions keep on changing, situations keep on changing. Before we bring this to an end, one final small question to you, General Hasnain, on the security scenario. As Mr. Prasad was saying that we've tightened security on the borders. We will also have to be mindful of the fact, as you were pointing out, also that things don't cross over, spill over into our basket. And which we should not be unmindful of.
Well, on the face of it, the border states which are likely to get affected, in the sense part of West Bengal, Bihar, UP, even Uttarakhand to some extent, none of them seem to have any issues as such on the borders. And I think in the current circumstances, we are quite capable with our police forces to just ensure that we keep a good eye on that area, on that border area. I think the SSB generally looks after this area, and they are the ones who should be tasked for it. The IB, other intelligence agencies should all just keep a watchful eye. The army has its presence in here and there, and you have a lot of Gurkha soldiers who are going in and out. It may cause a little bit of a problem at this time in terms of leave and pensions and things like that. What we should do is we should try and ensure that there is no disturbance in this at all. And as Vishal Sahab was also just pointing out, the benign face of India, that is what should actually be seen in Nepal. Here is a helpful neighbor only out to make sure that the people in Nepal are looked at, looked after, and looked at. Nothing else. We are not looking for cultivation. We are not looking for influence. That is the kind of message we should be going out.
Okay, there it is. Thank you so much, General Hasnain, and Mr. KV Prasad as well for sharing